All right, hello. How's everybody doing? Merry Christmas. I am doing my next deep dive, so let's jump into it. I find that you guys prefer it when I just jump right into whatever this topic's going to be. Before I start, though, as a Christmas gift, I ask if you like my content, if it's helpful, please consider subscribing or at least leave a like. We just hit my 500 subscriber mark, which I'm very grateful for, so thank you. So, today's subject is about teacher's aides, about TAs, about the pros, the cons, everything you need to know about what your experience will be like working with Vietnamese staff. Now, of course, this is going to be my experience. It's not going to speak for all of Vietnam, but I'm going to tell you what my experience has been like and what the experiences from people I've known. So, let's start with the pros of working with the Vietnamese staff, okay? Specifically when it comes to TA, so teacher's assistant. Now, I've been in schools where you have no TAs. You'll have a classroom and you're on your own, and actually, strangely enough, I prefer that. But then you're supposed to always have a TA with you. Then you'll have other classes where you'll have a TA. A language center will usually have one TA per class, whereas if you work in a public school, you're going to have maybe two. And you're trying to keep the chaos of 45 students in order. Um, the relationship with your TA is very important because if you have a bad relationship with your TA, they can and will try to hurt you in the sense of they don't understand your methodology of teaching. And let me give you a prime example. I'm trying to say these TAs are assigned to different teachers. There's a lot of different teachers, right, who have different styles of teaching. Let's say that you're the kind of teacher who prefers you're up to date with all the technology. You like to create your own PowerPoints. You're using Drive. You're using every single application. You're one of these guys who are at the or girls at the cafe, prepping your lesson on the computer. You don't use the whiteboard. You don't use anything that's considered old school. You're one of them kind of teachers, which is the majority of teachers that I work with, unfortunately. Your TA is going to see that and is going to assume that is the proper way, that is the normal way of teaching. Then you have people like me who I don't like to use the technology approach to teaching. I prefer more of the natural, use the whiteboard, be drawing, a more immersive, a more intimate, more of relying on this instead of the computer. Just a more personalized approach to teaching where it's not just relying on PowerPoints and relying on a formula. Like a lot of it is improvising, but it's not improvising of I make it up as I go. It's improvising as I have a plan, but I have a detailed plan of how I want my lesson to go. But how I get to that end point is I can improvise from point A to point B, from point C to point D. I could take make slight changes. I could deviate and do things where if you're going off your PowerPoint slides, you're kind of stuck. Now your TAs will see that sometimes and they'll think, well, if this guy's not using his technology, if he's not being like all the other teachers, he must not be as good as a teacher, or he must be less qualified teacher, or not putting as much effort in, which is obviously the complete. I think it actually takes more work to do it the way that teachers like me do. But I guess what I'm trying to say at is I have not had the best experience of TAs. Yeah, if I want to warn you that TAs, Vietnam, okay, I've been here for 3 years. So a lot of the rose-colored goggles that I have come off, and I've got to really see the nature of people. And there is a lot of two-faced people, and there is a lot of two-faced TAs, other teachers, staff members. It's just humans anywhere. But you need to be very careful around your TAs. Okay, don't be careful what you trust them with. Be careful about them having your back. Not all of them will. There's an expression we use in the military. It's called CYA. cover your butt, if you catch my drift, okay? And you need to do that. For example, a TA you might be in the middle of a lesson, right? And you draw a diagram. Say you're talking about the butterfly effect, okay? This happened to me recently, right? We were talking about, my lesson was future plans, and I wanted to do a warmer exercise that would challenge the students about, the very basic principles of the butterfly effect, about how, the smallest thing could cause, the flap of a butterfly's wings could cause a hurricane on the other side of the world. And I had a simplified version of it for, children. And, I noticed the TA is, sneaking, taking pictures, and I confront her. I'm like, why are you taking pictures of my board? And she wouldn't give me an answer. So, of course, when that happens, well, then, what do you do? Well, then, of course, you start recording your own classroom, because without any kind of proof, you have no idea what context that they're going to try to use that. They might try to hurt you. They might try to say, "Well, oh, he was trying to teach, advanced, physics to, 5-year-olds or something." And that's why it's important. So you actually, if you see that, pull out your camera and you record yourself, and you can be like, "No, here's the full context. I was actually using this as a warmer exercise to introduce the ideas of how the future." And how one action can could create a decision, a nexus point, etc., etc. I'm going off track a little bit just because this has recently been a problem that I've been having. So let's slow it back down. Be careful with your TAs. They're not always going to be your friends. They're not always going to care for you. And that was a very heartbreaking thing to learn, because my first couple of years here, the TAs that I had my back. They were some of the most nice, caring, honorable people. And recently, some of the TAs I have now are some of the people, not just TAs, just some of the people I work with now. They don't. They're literally. I call them sharks, and it puts you in a tough situation, because as an American, I would confront that person. I'd go right to their face and I'd be like, "Look, you and I are going to have a talk. You know what I mean? Like, what is your problem?" But you can't really do that here. You got to be very tactful. You got to be very careful. And sometimes it's best to play dumb. Sometimes it's best to just choose your battles, avoid the drama, and just, like I said, take countermeasures, contingencies, and have ways of protecting yourself. So, part two. Okay, that's just my little warning about TAs. Okay, a lot of them are gonna sometimes just sit on their phone, be playing video games. If you're a teacher like me, I don't even utilize my TAs. I don't need a TA. What is a TA gonna do for me? Like I'm a very self-reliant teacher. So when I get into teaching, I get into my mode. I'm just nonstop, boom, going at it. The thing I might use a TA for is, hey, TA, like, can you turn on the light or something like that. But I don't need translation. I don't need them doing classroom management, because I've already developed that rapport with the students. And that also, I think, could breed a little bit of resentment through the TAs, because they're either bored or they feel left out. But they need to remember their place, that I am the teacher, you are the TA. TA means teacher assistant. It means that you are there to assist me to do my job. I am the qualified professional. I am the one who has, the credentials, the experience, and so. But you know how people's egos are. Human nature. Like people could be petty, and I've been seeing a lot of that lately. It's really, really disappointed me about about this job, about this life, But with anything in life, there's always going to be good and bad. It's just unfortunate that I'm finally starting to see some bad. And it's important that I tell you some of this bad, so you don't go into it as naively as I did. So what is the role of a TA now? Let's get into the job. Let's get into, like, what specifically should their job be? Well, for a public school, it's mostly going to be for classroom management. So They're going to be the ones trying to keep them, in check, keep them sitting down, keep them quiet, keep them, but, I work in a language academy, a private school, stuff like that. They're more like for translations or more of like, hey, grade the homework, deal with the parents, stuff like that. In the classroom, there really is no rule for a TA, at least for my style of teaching. And but they are your main source, though, when it comes to dealing with parents. So the TA will be your your connection to being able to, if you, for example, say Chuan, student Chuan is not doing his homework. Well, you need your TA to be able to address your academic manager, and then maybe from there you'll address the parents and try to find a solution. So, another possible role of TA is to grade homework. So students will usually have a student book, they'll have a workbook. The workbook is their homework book. So while you're giving your lecture, giving your class, the TA should be in there grading. It's not your job as the teacher to grade, and at least the schools that I've been at. When it comes to test, so as a teacher at a language academy, you will only be expected, and I can't speak for every school, but at least for the schools that I've worked at, your role as an English teacher, as a professional English teacher, is to grade speaking tests. The writing, the listening, the reading, and all that is done by TAs, but speaking is through you. So that's another rule of theirs. And besides that, yeah, I mean, literally, they just kind of just stand there or sit there, and it'll either be a net gain, or if you're unfortunate enough to have somebody that you don't trust, having a quarter of your attention is always on them, always watching what they're doing. You need to, if you looked at all my videos throughout the years, I have always been so dreamy and so kind about what the experience of a Vietnamese teacher is like. Sadly, as I'm going into my third year, I've witnessed some very bad things, some hurtful things. People lying, people betraying, people not keeping their word, people slandering, people who just, if you don't fit in. For example, okay, let me give you an example. Vietnam is a very communal, a very group-based culture. Everything from family, from workplace, from school, from every moment of the, I'm just gonna throw it. I'm gonna say 99% of Vietnamese rarely do anything alone. It's just that their culture is all about a group, about spending time with family. You're always with family, a group of friends. They see your workplace as their work family. They even address it as such. As an Americans, we don't see it that way. We're very individualistic, right? We like to do, or at least I speak for myself. Me, I appreciate my alone time. I need to be able to have time for myself. I don't like to be around people. Vietnamese who have not been exposed to that, who don't understand that culture, might see that as, well, maybe he thinks he's too good for us, or they might take that the wrong way, or maybe he think whatever reasons they might be, or maybe they're just intimidated by that, or I can't give the reasons why some of these TAs do the things that they do, but I'm just speculating. Keep in mind that if you're a introvert, or if you're somebody who just likes to spend a lot of time alone, you're going into a culture that is the complete opposite of that. And some TAs will be very accepting of that. Others of that will try to hurt you. So let's talk now. So that's TAs, okay? Let's talk about Vietnamese staff as a whole. So in the school, you're going to have admissions officer. You're going to have your HR department. Let me give you some good advice. Your HR department, do not make enemies from. It doesn't matter if you're more qualified. It doesn't matter if you have 20 years over them. You might have some 18-year-old, fresh out of, whatever, as your HR in a position of authority over you. And you just have to accept it. Like, literally has a life experience like this compared to you. But you respect the title, not the position, right? It's kind of like in the military. You respect the rank, not the man, Do not make enemies from HR. Do not make enemies. Like, be respectful. Like, just be known. Be grateful that be grateful, show humility, and try your best, to be respectful of the culture and of just the people that you work with. Me, I just avoid everybody. I just I have let's just be honest, okay? Let's be honest. I'll be honest with my channel. I don't trust many people. I have trust issues with a lot of people that I work with, and not just in my current job. I just mean just whatever job I work at. I just don't trust people. It's more beneficial for me just to avoid people than it is to be involved around them. It's more beneficial for me for people not to know about my personal life than it is for me to be sitting there telling everybody, oh, having my anniversary, or I'm going on my date with so and so. Like, I don't even go to the teachers' lounge, and like I avoid everybody. Work life, personal life, like work is work. Do it and then get the hell out. So be careful who you trust. With the Vietnamese staff, no, I am going to say that 99% of them will treat you kindly, will be nice to you. But there is going to be situations where you're going to have a few bad apples. And those few bad apples can really do a lot of damage to you if you don't speak Vietnamese, if you don't have a way to defend yourself. And sometimes you won't even know somebody's bad mouthing you, or slandering you, or it's all about face here in Vietnam. It's all about your reputation. So if you have somebody who's slandering you, who is literally taking something that is super important in Vietnam, and that's your reputation, and they're taking that from you, like, that is unacceptable. That is something that needs to be dealt with. But it's hard. Life here is not easy, guys. It's not easy. And I wanted to make this video because I just want to let you know that TAs are going to be something that you're just going to have to learn to deal with. And it breaks my heart to say that there is bad TAs. There are TAs that they hire that have no passion for the job. They don't care about teachers, and they don't care about you. And they get off by just seeing you fail. There are people like that in any culture, and there's just bad people like that. Ways you can do to protect yourself is what I recommend. Is it when you're in doubt, if you suspect that you're being, if you suspect you catch your TA doing something sketchy, well then pull out your phone and set it right there and record your class. Speak to your academic manager, notify people, like let everybody know within your chain of command, what the situation is. Don't wait for after, be proactive when dealing with these situations. So I don't know if any of this knowledge will help from you. I guess if you can read between the lines, what I'm trying to tell you is be careful of TAs. Does not mean that they're all bad. Some of my best, not best relationships, but like some of the people that I, have good, rapport with. I don't know what the word would be with our TAs, but there's a lot of there's some bad people. So as a teacher, unfortunately, you're gonna have to deal with that and navigate that here in Vietnam. I don't know what it's gonna be like in Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City or a big city like that. From what I've heard from other teachers, usually the TAs just don't care. I mean, they don't care, but they can make your life living hell. Up here in tier 4, tier 3 cities, up in the countryside, I mean, like literally, they can't hide. And also, do not be a pushover. Luckily, I'm not gonna say luckily. Part of my culture as an American is we're confrontational. If you screw with us, if you screw with our well-being, if you screw with if you screw with my dreams, if you tread on my dreams, if you mess with the thing that I worked a decade to do, I'm gonna come at you and I'm gonna confront you about that. Doesn't mean I'm gonna do anything violent or but I am gonna at least challenge you and I'm not afraid to stand up for myself, and you need to do the same. Just in a situation, have a witness. Always think of ways that they could hurt you and then have a counter. Think of ways that they, if you go to talk to them one on one, well, then they could say that you said this and that. So be sure you record it. Record what you say. Ask for a witness. Always think about what they could use to hurt you. That way, people aren't complicated. And a lot of these TAs are like 20 years younger than you anyways. They're just little kids. So they're out of their league. The only thing they have over you is that you're, in their country, and if you don't speak the language, which if you do, if you don't, but besides that, if you have life experience, then you know how to play the game. I wish I had a more positive note to tell you guys about TAs, Vietnamese staff, about schools, about it, but I guess that's just part of what this YouTube channel might help you with. Is as the year more that I do this, the longer that I'm here, I can give you updated, perspective on what I've learned and experienced, and it's changed. It's changed. I have learned a lot more, but please let me just make this last disclaimer. This does not mean that all TAs are bad. This does not mean you cannot trust your TAs. It's like literally for the first 2 years, I had not a single problem with any of my TAs. It's just, I just wanted to put this in your mind if you're thinking about becoming an English teacher and moving out here to Vietnam, so at least that you will be prepared. Like, think of me as that guinea pig that has to walk and trip and fall and step on every mine and tripwire and pothole. Learn from my mistakes. Learn from my pain, from my suffering. Therefore, when you come and teach, you don't have to go through and suffer what I had to. Learn from me, because I did this all by myself. I had no one to hold my hand. So all of this years of YouTube content that I've been giving you guys about Vietnam, use it, because it will help you. And I am honest about what I tell you. I don't cherry coat things. So anyways, that's my deep dive on TAs. I'm sure I could tell you more, but just ponder on what I said, okay? Just think about it, and just use common sense, okay? And always CYA, cover your butt, okay? Make sure no matter what you do that you're protecting yourself when it comes into working with other people and your TAs and stuff like that. If that means that you need to record your own class, then do it. If that means that you need to have a witness with you, do it. But just make sure that you're covering your butt. Don't leave anything to, he said, she said. Don't leave it to that. So I hope that helps. I'm sorry for a more downside, but hey, look, it doesn't matter what part of the planet you go on. Human nature is human nature. Bad people are going to be no matter where you're at. So it's just it is what it is. Anyways, Cindy, Atticus, wishing you a Merry Christmas, And the next deep dive I will do, if there's something you guys would like to know, put it in the comments. You know, if there's some specific title or subject matter about teaching, let me know. I'll sit here and make a 30, 40, 1 hour long video, whatever it is you want to know. Like, I have 3 years of experience specifically just in this one spot. Like use me, use my knowledge, use my connections. So let me help you. Okay? So, Merry Christmas, guys. Bye.